Welcome to Wednesday night Satsang. In celebration of the Mexican holiday, Dia de los Muertos, we invite you to come by the art gallery and see the ofrenda. This altar is designed to celebrate and honor loved ones who have passed, and you're welcome to either leave a photo of a loved one or write their name down to place on the altar. You can also leave an object if you wish, all of which you can take back home with you. Stop by before or after services. This Sunday at 11 a.m., we begin week 5 of our Touchstone series with Reverend Michael's message, What Do You Value Most? Learning to name our values is a helpful step on our journey of the soul. Sometimes when we're troubled by things we observe in the world, it's not pointing to something broken within us, but something whole. If we listen, our heart will whisper what's most important. Chris Perez will give a similar talk on Sunday morning, 9:45 a.m. in the Pyramid, and also live streamed on the Unity Houston and Espanol Facebook page. Our Animal Kinship Ministry is collecting pet food and supplies for Animeals. Look for the red bin on Sunday morning under the covered drive-thru from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Our team will unload supplies from your vehicle, making donating quick and easy. Thank you for supporting Animeals. Next Wednesday, we welcome back special guest Charlie Thweet for music and message, Living in Connection. Are you on God's Wi-Fi? Charlie looks at how we stay connected on the inner realms via what you could call an inner invisible Wi-Fi of divine energy. This shows up in how we connect with ourselves, with others, and with God. As part of his talk, he'll also emphasize his points with a series of dueling quotes between the Buddha and Mark Twain. Come join us at 7 p.m. in the Pyramid. And join Reverend Jeanmarie Eck and Jen Dickey for 5 Fridays of Metaphysics 3, beginning November 12th at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom. The third phase in metaphysical study is cultivating dominion over the ego or personality. To that end, students will be encouraged to investigate, analyze, and use basic metaphysical tools for living by developing dominion over the ego and personality. The way is opened for greater expression of the student's innate divine potential. Details and registration are available on our website. Namaste.
Good evening and welcome to Wednesday night Satsang. Excuse me. This is the experience that is indeed the practice and the principle of unity. And so as we let go of whatever we have been doing in this day, however much of this week has already weighed upon us, let us just set it aside for right now and allow ourselves to have this opportunity to refresh and take a deep breath in, relaxing and letting go, and just allowing this evening air, this evening twilight to move into our spirit, to move into our bodies, to bring within us a sense of peace, of completion, of equanimity, of well-being. This is our time, and this is our time together. And so as we open ourselves to this experience in community, we also allow ourselves to be drawing in whatever it is our physical being needs, whatever our emotional self needs, whatever our mind and heart are in need of now. We draw in for refreshment and fulfillment. And we know that all is well, that we are enough, and that all of us together, near and far, create a field of love, of renewal, of spirit, of truth, of oneness. We feel it, we know it, and so it is. Amen.
So as we engage in this evening's practice of living originally, we return to the origin, which is love. Let's sing together.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. Tonight's mantra chant, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. Let us know this together. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
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 When I breathe in, shalom, salam, shanti, shanti, shanti. Thoughts I'm thinking, shalom, salam, shanti, shanti, shanti. Words I'm speaking, shalom, salam, shanti, shanti, shanti. All I'm feeling, shalom, salam, shanti, shanti, shanti. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu.
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu.
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu.
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu.
Shanti, shanti, shanti. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Let us realize that peace now as we turn within for our time of seated practice. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to close your outer eyes, breathe, relax. Find a comfortable seated position for our practice this evening. I invite you now to consider someone who you appreciate, someone who you deeply value, or something. Just think of that person, that place, or the thing. Of what it feels like to acknowledge that now. As you bring your attention now to your heart space at the center of your chest, acknowledge the appreciation that you have for that person or thing. Just invite you to now, as you consider that person or thing, to speak any words of appreciation that you may have for them. If you're here in the pyramid, you may want to say them in your mind, or if you're at home alone, I invite you to even say them aloud, any words of appreciation. And just keep it simple and short. Stay centered in your heart. invite you now to think of another person who you appreciate and value deeply. Hold them in your heart space and share with them any words of appreciation, whatever spontaneously arises as you hold them in your heart. And another. Bring another to mind and hold them in your heart as well. Sharing any words of appreciation for that dear one. And now I invite you to do this practice for yourself, towards yourself. To feel what you appreciate about yourself. Even if it's small or trivial. To acknowledge the place where you feel appreciation for yourself. Now feel the quality of appreciation that you have cultivated in your heart center for yourself and for others, for being alive in this moment. Now let that go and bring to mind some kindness that someone did for you. Could be something that happened recently or even in the distant past, big or small. Notice how you feel as you recall that kindness that someone did for you. I invite you now to recall some kindness that you did for someone else. And notice how you feel as you recall this kindness that you expressed. And as you consider the next 24 hours of your life, consider some act of kindness that you might do for someone else. It could be something small. Notice how that feels when you feel it in your heart. As you think of some act of kindness. And consider an act of kindness that you might do for yourself in the next 24 hours. It could be very small. Notice how you feel. Let that go. Bring your attention to your heart center again. Just allow yourself now to feel gratitude and appreciation for all the good in your life. All the good in your life. Just notice what you feel in your heart as you feel gratitude. Now recall an experience of generosity in your life. Recall the feeling of giving and the desire to generously share the good in your life with all others. Don't be concerned with how that might happen. Just feel the feeling of generosity. And as you hold in your heart all the good in your life, all the loved ones, friends, and all beings, all life, let us hold this for all beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. May all beings live in peace. Breathing in, letting go, bringing awareness to the body as you begin to bring your attention to this time and space. Begin to bring some gentle movement to the body. And when you're ready, let some light into your eyes, just a bit at a time, with a soft gaze, just noticing what's around you. Bringing your full presence to this moment. And so it is.
For this beautiful time of reflection on what we are most grateful for who we are grateful for. Just to allow that experience of gratitude and generosity of the heart to fill us. This is a beautiful, not only practice, but opportunity to open ourselves to act on this experience of gratitude and generosity. And so this is the time in our service that we do share with this community, with this ministry from the generosity of our hearts, but filled with the gratitude of it. And gratitude has its root in love. And so as we breathe into our hearts once again, as we allow ourselves to feel the expanse and the flow, feel our gratitude that we have some resource to share, knowing that as we release it, it is not only a blessing, but it blesses the world through Unity of Houston to the world. And so at this moment, as you prepare your gift, whether you give through text to give or some other means through our website, if you give it in solid form here in our sanctuary, however you give, please always do it with an experience and expression of the love in your heart so that it has power to transform lives. And so as you give and as you breathe, let us now bless it by calling it by its name. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive, and so it is. Amen.
So many things we can't control. So many hurts that happen every day. So many heartaches that pierce the soul. So much pain that won't ever go away. How can we make it better? How can we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside, we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find when we are there for each other that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow might bring. Nobody really wants to fight. Nobody really wants to go to war. Everyone wants to make things right. So what are we always fighting for? Does nobody want to see it? Does nobody understand? The power to heal is right here in our head. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside, we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find when we are there for each other that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow might bring. And it's not enough to talk about it. It's not enough to sing a song. We must walk the walk about it. You and I, do or die. We've got to try to get along. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside, we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find when we are there can be kind. We can be kind. So, gosh, I love that song. Considering what's the greatest challenge in your life right now? What's going on with you? What's up? What's the buzz? What's going on? What's the kindest response? The kindest response that you could have for other people in that situation, for yourself? The go-to for most of us is the defensive response. Putting up our walls, keeping ourselves safe. What would be the kind response? Would it be prayer? Would it be to ask for forgiveness or to forgive? To maybe just remove yourself from that situation or to let it go? What is it that your heart is telling you? That's what this practice is all about tonight. We've been on this journey together. This is the 4th week of Living Originally, this wonderful series of 10 practices that Reverend Robert Brummett has given us for personal transformation and for transforming your life. And so here on week 4, the practice that we're engaging in is universal benevolence. Universal benevolence. And this practice is centered in the greatest gem of truth that Jesus gave us. Jesus said in John 15:12, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." Love one another as I have loved you. And it's a great calling us up to that universal love for all. There are 3 interrelated practices that are part of universal benevolence that Robert Brummett gives us, and they are appreciation, kindness, and generosity. And so they all work together and they all build on each other. So I'll share with you about them. But first, the word benevolence. The word benevolence is derived from a Latin word which means a disposition of goodwill and kindness. Having a disposition of goodwill and kindness as your general outlook, the way that you show up in the world, goodwill and kindness. It's extending this to all persons and ultimately to all beings, all life. And so we know it's easy to feel benevolence towards our loved ones and our friends. The hard one is extending that benevolence to all beings, even those who seem to oppose us or disagree with us or may even seem to be against us, right? So what is this practice? How do we go about this practice of universal benevolence? So the practice is to keep your heart as open as possible, which is great when you're feeling good and you're in the safety and comfort of friends and loved ones. But it can be very challenging when you feel threatened or when your body is in pain or you're in an emotional or some kind of other pain is going on in your life. To be able to keep your heart open can really be a challenge. So we tend to close down our hearts when we feel threatened or when we're suffering. And when we do that, we go unconscious, which means we become reactive to life and we are not responding from our heart, but rather we're more impulsive to just whatever we're triggered to say or to do. And so the practice is that even when that happens, okay, we can include that in universal benevolence by recognizing it, that is happening, and returning your intention once again to keeping your heart open. Just returning again and again. Okay, I notice my heart's closed down. I'm feeling very defensive right now. This is hard, and I recognize I can give love to myself, and I can keep the intention to open up my heart. So what the practice is not so much about feeling what we think of as feeling benevolent, like feeling warm and fuzzy all the time. I can only imagine that people who we think about who are known for being a presence of nonviolence in the world, like Martin Luther King Jr. or Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela, that they didn't feel all warm and fuzzy when they were being persecuted. However, they kept their hearts open and they spoke from universal benevolence. So we can do that even in the midst of challenge, returning to the heart. And if you can't do this, that is when you can notice. Just notice, without judgment, without self-criticism, notice. My heart is not open, right? Noticing it and just seeing what are the circumstances that trigger me to close my heart down. That's something you can work with. That's something you can be with. That's something you can do some healing work around when you're conscious, when you notice it, rather than becoming unconscious, triggered, and reactive, right? I'm willing to be conscious. So when you notice that a practice in this series, the way that Robert Brummett has laid it out, if there's a practice that is challenging for you, then you go back to the previous practice. So if universal benevolence is becoming a stuck place for you, you return to the previous practice, which is forgiveness, and add in acceptance and awareness, the three practices that we've previously done. They build on each other. So now's the time in how many of you are in spirit groups? Any of you doing a spirit group now, involved in spirit groups? So yes, spirit groups. So now's the time in our spirit groups where we are looking to see what service projects we're going to do or engaging in those service projects. And this is our group practice of, yes, we feel love and openness and connection with each other. Now let's extend that into our community and find a way to serve. And so last year in my spirit group, our service project that we chose, we got to write thank you cards for the teachers and the staff at Pilgrim Academy, right? And on the other side of Richmond, a wonderful school that we've partnered with. And what was really neat about that project that I noticed is that I had this list of names that I wrote cards out to, and I did not know one of those people by face. I just had the name. And as I looked in my blank card, I opened my heart, I had something different to say for each one in appreciation, just kind of feeling into in that time. And they had been doing hybrid teaching with kids in class, kids online. They had quite a beginning of the school year at this time last year, and just feeling into that. And it taught me that we can express gratitude and appreciation, not having to know the details. We can just extend that, and that it is received, that heart energy is received. And it was so, we get so much appreciation. This year, my group is doing trunk and treat. So we're really excited about that. And that, we had talked a lot about that, different types of service projects that were really important, and wanting to help people who've had COVID and people who are struggling with cancer and different things. And when we realized that to bring kids joy, what a wonderful way to express our joy of being in our group, to bring kids joy and to show our generosity and of our time and our gifts and energy into bringing kids to our beautiful campus and experiencing that. So we're just really excited about that opportunity, and I'm sure that those of you who are in spirit groups have something wonderful coming up. Just showing appreciation, sharing kindness, and being a generous presence in the world. That's what we're all about here in Unity, and what we're doing through spirit groups, and of course through this practice here on Wednesday night Satsang. So I want to go through these three areas that Robert Brummett has given us as part of the benevolence practice. So the first one, appreciation. So appreciation is the recognition of the quality and value of people and things. We did these three practices in our meditation tonight, as a meditation from Living Originally that I shared with you. And there's also an alternate meaning to appreciation, not only the recognition, but also the alternate meaning of increasing in value, like a house appreciating that it grows in value. So when we recognize the value that someone or something has for us, that recognition increases the value for their use and for them and for the use of whatever it is that we're appreciating. It increases in value within us and our awareness as well. So there's this twofold aspect of appreciation. The way that we know our own value as children usually is from our experience of being appreciated by others, especially our parents, could be our teachers, others that are authority figures in our life, and we take that in and it becomes our value of who we are and acknowledging what we bring to the world. And as adults, when we receive appreciation from others, that also may increase our personal sense of value as we take that in and allow that into our hearts. It's more important that we appreciate others in this practice because the spiritual practice of appreciation shows us that as we show appreciation to others, we actually increase our recognition of our own value, because now we work that muscle, that we see it in others, when you spot it, you got it, that is also present and inherent within us, and we begin to see and recognize that. So that is our encouragement to grow, if we want to grow a recognition of our own values, to begin to practice even more the recognition and appreciation of the value of others and really letting them know that. Because of our conditioning, we often have difficulty recognizing our own value because we can tend to be conditioned to look for our faults. Anybody had that experience to be conditioned to look for your faults? So one thing that I always kind of come back to as I think about conditioning in my own life and looking for my own value is when I was an actor in New York years ago, and I would go to these auditions, and I thought I was so special and unique and all that kind of stuff until I started going, and there would be like 50 girls who looked just like me in the same kind of outfit, same kind of hairstyle, singing very similar kind of songs. I'm like, oh, come on. I mean, you expect like 5, 10, I don't know, to be so many girls. I go, oh, okay. And they would say, oh, actors are a dime a dozen. They really were. It was tough being an actor as far as value. It felt undervalued. They call these auditions cattle calls for a reason. It's like they heard you in, they heard you out. And I remember one audition I went on, and it was for there was a casting director was not there. It was their intern was there, and the whole time she was on her phone, and I'm singing and I'm going, and she's not even looking at me. And at the end, I sang my heart out, and at the end, she looks up from her phone, she goes, oh, nice dress, by the way. And I was like, huh, okay. So, well, she did make the effort to show some appreciation anyway for my dress, but it just kind of factored into just all that kind of made a lot of meaning out of that. And I started going to Unity and learning all these positive affirmations and learning to love and value myself. And I would go on auditions and I'd meet people and I'd tell them all about Unity and how excited I was and just how wonderful they were and that they needed to know that and they needed to learn, I'd love for them to learn Unity, telling them all that. And it was over time that I realized I had a lot more energy around the sharing of Unity than the auditioning part, and that I might want to put some more energy and effort in my life into pursuing that, because obviously I had a lot of passion there, and it directed me in a certain way. But that was a big shift for me in knowing my own value and valuing other people who were formerly my competitors, and just loving them and getting excited about being there with them and that kind of thing. So that's that shift into appreciation from my own experience. So there's a psychological level and a spiritual level to appreciation. The psychological level is when we experience value by receiving appreciation, and the spiritual level is when we experience value by giving the appreciation to others. Robert Brummett says, that which is innate in us can best be discovered by expressing it to others. By expressing it to others. So that's our first part. of the practice of universal benevolence. And the second part is kindness. Kindness, we can be kind. So appreciation leads us into kindness, because appreciation is more of an inward experience, whereas kindness is more of an action. Kindness is defined as a friendly, warm-hearted, and empathic nature, and it's derived from the Old English word that references the natural feeling of kindness towards your family, that it's much easier to experience being kind to our own kind, our family, right? So universal benevolence extends our own kind to be every being, recognizing our own kind, the divine in every being. That makes us all one. Appreciation, like I said, is primarily internal. Kindness is both internal and external, and there are really no limits to the possibilities of extending kindness to others. The third practice is generosity. Generosity is a natural outgrowth of the kindness, and that's defined as the willingness to give liberally and give often, to be just in that mind state of being on the side of giving. Just always thinking, how can I give? It's also a synonym for generosity is magnanimity, which literally means having a great soul. So this practice of generosity is considered to expand your soul. The more that you give, the more that your soul is expressing in the world, and therefore you have an expansive experience of it. And there are unlimited ways, like I said, to express generosity: your time, talent, treasure, your attention. It's an action, but it begins with the attitude, willingness to give at every opportunity, to just really be open and willing to give. And this is how Shakespeare put it. It is twice blessed. It blesses him that gives and him that takes. So the generosity is a two-way street, that the person who is giving is blessed in the giving. That's why if somebody offers you a gift, you want to receive that gift and know how to receive it with an open heart. No, I don't know. You don't need to do all that too much, or whatever the kind of ways we deflect gifts, to recognize that it's a blessing for the giver as well as the receiver of the gift. So allowing them to give that blessing to you and learning how to receive. So many of us are good givers, but we need to learn how to receive. So that's that practice also, learning how to receive generously as well as give generously. So while generosity is practiced towards others, we also practice generosity towards ourselves, both in our attitude and our actions. And this is not an egocentric practice. It's not meant to make us superior in any way when we practice generosity to ourselves, but to really appreciate ourselves as equal to all and appreciating our uniqueness. And it's important to be healthy with our self-care, to be generous with ourselves, and particularly generous in forgiveness and letting go, and not being so critical with ourselves as well. We want to be generous in that aspect. We need a healthy ego to function, and we also need a healthy body. So these are important for our spiritual growth, to remember that we need both a healthy ego and a healthy body. If there is any kind of deficiency in the ego structure, where there's been some trauma, where there's been a wounding there, that psychotherapy, some other healing modality, is very helpful in this. So just to consider that. There's a wonderful workshop that Esther Nicholson talked about on Sunday that she's bringing to us in a couple weeks on Sunday when she comes to speak, that is healing the wounds of trauma that can get in the way of us fully expressing all that we are in the world. I'm looking forward to that. It's really good. So that's something to consider, that we have those resources here. Spiritual practice takes us beyond our identity of the body and of the ego, and we need to have healthy body and ego in order to, as healthy as, bringing that awareness of wholeness into our awareness of self in that way. I want to share with you a wonderful story of universal benevolence that is from Robert Brummett's text, and it is centered on a verse from the Dhammapada, which is a sacred Buddhist scripture, and the verse says this: "Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law." This verse was chanted more than 10,000 times in Cambodia in a refugee camp, and the people who chanted this were people who had been most afflicted. This verse was chosen by a respected Cambodian monk whose name is Maha Ghosananda. He had visited refugee camps where thousands had fled from Pol Pot's regime. There were 2 million Cambodians, which were 25% of the total population of Cambodia, who died in a horrible Holocaust led by Pol Pot's regime that began in 1975, and it lasted 20 years. Every family in this camp had lost children, had lost spouses, parents to this genocide, and their homes and temples were completely destroyed. Pol Pot had desecrated Buddhism in this country. And so it was amazing that when Maha Ghosananda offered this experience, he invited these people, and that so many showed up for the ceremony. Maha Ghosananda sat in silence up on this platform for quite some time before them, and then he started chanting this verse: "Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is an ancient and eternal law." And he chanted it again and again and again. And one by one, the Cambodians began to join him in the chanting. And these people had as much cause to hate other people as anyone on the earth. Yet as they chanted this, it served as a healing balm, and they began to weep and weep and weep. They had been wounded, they had been oppressed, they had been made homeless, they had been crushed by the pain of war, and yet they found healing in this simple prayer that proclaimed the ancient truth of love that was greater than all the pain that they had seen and they had felt. Maha Ghosananda was a spiritually awakened person. And when you're spiritually awake, when you're fully awake to your origin, you will naturally express universal benevolence. It just will flow from you. This is a transformative practice to bring forth this expression. And as you practice universal benevolence, you may notice that the ego's hidden attachments also show up. Your resistances also show up to your conscious awareness. So as we give, as we appreciate, as we're kind to ourselves, to others, any resistance will show up. And how can we love ourselves and others through that is the practice. We want to simply recognize the resistance without resisting the resistance. Notice it. Be willing to experience it, because beneath that resistance is an unhealed wound that wants to be brought to light, that wants to be healed. There's some unfelt pain that we can feel in the moment, and we might think, I don't want to feel pain. Why would I want to do this practice and feel pain? And what Robert Brummett tells us is that when we allow ourselves to feel the pain from that wound that brought up the resistance, there's far less suffering for us in seeing and feeling it than in that resistance being underground in the shadow and operating behind the scenes and causing us to be reactive and wounded by life. That this is a way to bring healing to that, and it's a process that takes time as these things show up and as our souls are ready for that healing in the right and perfect time. So resistance can also arise in our life conditions, and he shares this story of a woman who came to him, Robert Brummett, who came to him in great confusion. She said, ever since I asked God to make me a more loving person, all these terrible people have come in my life. What's wrong? I can only imagine Robert receiving that and him just very calmly explaining to her that perhaps there is nothing wrong and perhaps her prayer was answered, although she wasn't seeing it that way. These people who she thought were terrible, giving her an opportunity to practice universal benevolence, appreciation and kindness and generosity. So as you practice universal benevolence, you will come to return your awareness to your original nature, which is appreciative, which is kind, which is generous. That's who you are. So there was only just this other that was learned or conditioned that you're becoming aware of and letting go so that your true nature can flow. And the more you do it, the more the practice will become natural to you, and you will experience the greater joy that lies in practicing benevolence in all that you say and do. Namaste.
Thank you, Reverend Jeanmarie. Woo, that was fun. Right. I played around. You got me started in wordplay, right? Right at the beginning when you did benevolence, and we both share a background in Catholicism and therefore Latin, and so benevolence, meaning goodwill, it kind of made me play with that a little bit. Goodwill is something that we carry with us. I mean, I always think of it as, having goodwill towards others. It's like a volare. It's like something that's a flow that wants to come through me to give to others. But when you flip the word around, that you will good for others, then it comes from an entirely different place, and I had never really thought of it that way, that it's, if I decide to will good for others, then there is some kind of a push that's coming from me, and to give good everywhere, and that it's not about deserving. It's really about, finding something of value, the appreciation to do that. So I was playing a lot with those words, and kindness, I'd never saw kindred in there. I never saw, that base. You said when you were talking about kind, it being familial, being connected to family and kin and all of that. And I thought, because it's relatable, because we generally care about our family, people who we're related to, people we live next to, people we can identify with, And, just if we just saw everyone that way, maybe that's where our vision of kindness would come from. I don't know. I was playing right over there in that chair with those words, and you just gave me lots of mind bubbles, popping up, thinking of all kinds of ways I could see the joy of being able to live in that a little bit more without trying to figure out the valuation around me. Does that person really deserve that from me? Is that expected? Does it matter? All those, details of trying to figure that out instead of just knowing that that's the fun thing to do. That's what we're here for, right? So thank you for starting us off with some great wordplay.
Thank you. You brought in some other things I hadn't thought of.
I heard it in your lesson though, so you really did that. So thank you.
Yes, it was inspiring. It's nice to have a cheery topic, right?
Yes.
And you really went with it. It was beautiful. When I conducted Portland Boy Choir for 15 plus years, we operated out of core values. Because, for boys, it's good just to have a simple something to kind of attach to that it's sort of a social code in the way we be with each other. And the 5 core values were excellence, because we were a musical organization. I am the way I am. And then integrity, authenticity, then kindness, and joy. And I would tell the boys overtly, I say, the reason kindness is part of our core values is because our culture does not teach men to be kind. Our culture teaches us to dominate one another, to actually be mean to one another, to assert our place in the world by being stronger and faster and compete, and to actually weave kindness into our daily moment-to-moment practice is part of what it is to be a gentleman. And I live by that now. But I love your talk, though, and also bringing in appreciation and generosity. And toward the end of what you were sharing, especially when you were talking about generosity, I was reminded of Viktor Frankl. Now, I'm not a super whiz on all of the subtleties, so if I don't get it exactly right, just go with the story, because the story is great. But I'm pretty sure most of this is true, that when he was in the concentration camp, and they had stripped him of everything, literally everything, and all he had left was his wedding ring. And they saw, you must remove it, as if that's going, oh, this is really going to get it, right? This is going to break this man. And because he was devoted to his wife. And he removed his ring, and whether he said it outwardly or he reported about it later, I actually don't remember. But the story is that he said, you will not make me hate you. You can take my ring, you can take my clothes, you can even tumble my spirit, but you will not break my capacity to love, even in this situation. And when I think about that sometimes, and I'm thinking, okay, you go. That's the way you treat a bully. And I'm gonna stop there, except to say that this last weekend I had a high school reunion, and it was a rich, wonderful experience. But I had an opportunity of crossing paths with two of the bullies of my high school, and how I coped with them then, and how I had an opportunity to sort of reassess in this situation, and how much energy I invested in protecting myself around them. Not physically, not even then was it physically, but emotionally and mentally. And I had a little of that going on even this weekend, but listening to your talk, I'm realizing, no, that's not hurting them. Me protecting myself doesn't have anything to do with it. And I can be generous of spirit here. I can lead with love. I can release it just as quickly. And I'm left with an open heart.
Yes. Holding that intention, no matter how you're feeling on the inside.
I was also so impressed with the with the mantra of releasing the hatred, and that, I don't remember the exact words, but it had to do with, hatred is not released by more hatred or by feeling hatred, but the tears that came from the people who simply repeated the mantra of truth, the universal truth of it, and began to repeat it, began to melt themselves and into tears and releasing. I feel that what they were releasing, of course, was their realizing that hatred was hurting them, that it was the poison they were holding that was causing their suffering, as much as what they'd suffered through, and the loss, that the hatred was optional, and that they could let that go, and feel the healing, and also the largesse. I think we get so much bigger when we let go of the smallness of pointed retribution, revenge, hatred. When we won't let them get away with it, we don't let ourselves heal either. And we get stuck in that transaction. We talked about that in forgiveness, that same thing. So I'm just always so blessed and amazed by all the ways that forgiveness sneaks into the conversation, because it is the universal healing tool, and it's always the right answer, and how it always blesses us and releases us back into freedom and hugeness. I just think greatness, a greatness of our hearts, you know? And I felt tears just thinking about them sitting in tears. So thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah. You just imagine like the ripples of that healing going out across their country, just all of them sitting there and chanting. Powerful.
Well, I'm going to continue to cultivate these three principles: appreciation, kindness, and generosity, because it just seems so more than wholesome. It's life-giving. Just the very idea of it is life-giving, and is so applicable to most human circumstances, maybe even all. If you're feeling great, if you're feeling love and gratitude, then appreciation, kindness, and generosity, it just flows effortlessly. And if you're feeling a little friction in a certain circumstance, and you call back those principles, it doesn't. There's not a catch. It's not like it costs me anything to be generous of spirit. I'm not giving up my center of self. My self-esteem is not compromised by being big-hearted in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
I'm going to live into that principle.
Yeah, just simply sending someone love or wishing them well, and that's an expression of that universal benevolence that we all can do, that doesn't cost anything and allows us to be free.
Willing good, yeah. One other quick question, just as we close and get ready to go into our prayer time. I'm just very curious. The intern who complimented you on your dress, did you call you back?
No. No, nothing came from that at all.
Well, all I have to say is their loss, our gain. That's how I see it. So with that, I'll just invite you now to breathe with me and move into this time of prayer, this space that we've cultivated this evening among us and beyond us, and connecting us near and far, those who are watching us on live stream now in real time, but even those who will be seeing this service and be with us. Spirit, you are here now, and we are sharing a palpable reality now. And in this space among us, Spirit rests, active, healing. And into this healing vortex among us, into our space of goodwill and our will for good, let us now bring to mind an event, a circumstance or condition that we wish to see better, to see changed. A person in our lives, perhaps, that we wish to see their lives improved, whatever that is. And we now bring them to mind, opening our hearts, breathing into our bodies. And as we are ready, speak the name of the condition or the person we wish to surrender into this vortex of good. And we do it now in quiet. So as we surrender these beloveds, as we surrender these conditions, already we feel ourselves released and free, growing larger ourselves from our hearts out into the world, embracing our lives as lovers, as peacemakers, as lights in the world, and seeing light in each and every face. And so from this place, we feel our gratitude, which heals and comes from the love that flows through us now. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
This evening, if you would like to have prayer personally this evening, we will have a unity prayer partner standing on the north wall at the conclusion of the service. You're invited to come and receive prayer.
Let us continue to express our loving kindness through our metta practice tonight. By the power of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they know the sacred joy that arises in the space beyond suffering. May they rest in equanimity that knows no grasping or hatred. May they experience the equality of all beings. May my practice be of benefit to all. Namaste, namaste, I bow to you. Namaste, 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 go shine your light into the world. Namaste, namaste, the light in me sees the light in you. Namaste, namaste, go shine your light into the world. Namaste, namaste, namaste.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.